Hi, Smita.
Hi, welcome to my studio. Hi, my name is Smita Sen. I'm a sculptor and a performance artist. I'm born and raised in Miami. I was away for a really long time, but I've finally been back. I think that starting in about 2022, I had the chance to come back and really build roots here in Miami. I was back and forth between New York and Miami, and I've finally been back for the last 2 years.
How was your time in New York?
I loved New York City. I also was there during a really beautiful time. I was there from 2012 to 2019, and then I was in Connecticut from 2019 to 2022. Then I was working in New York again, and I was back and forth between Miami and New York. Um, and New York is a very wonderful place to start one's career. It's a really good place to grow. It's a really good place to meet lots of other artists. It's a great place to be enmeshed in a lot of different cultural communities. And so having the chance to just learn and listen to lots of different kinds of people is very, very special.
Well, they say if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Is it difficult?
Yeah, you have to build community. You have to find a way to know what your strengths are. Because in New York City, there's just so much noise. There are so many people who are excellent at what they do. Like even New York City Ballet is competing with American Ballet Theater and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater and Martha Graham Dance Theater. And it's just, and Mark Morris and Paul Taylor. And it's you have even the people who have those kind of secure artistic positions are still competing for audience attention and for ticket sales and for all these things. So as an individual artist starting your career, you need to know who you are and figure out who you are with a sincerity and a strength that can protect you and that you can nurture and grow anywhere you go.
How long have you been at the Bakehouse?
Oh my goodness. I have been an associate member with the Bakehouse since 2022. I was one of their summer open residents in 2022. And then because I was back and forth with New York, I really maintained my associate status. And it's wonderful that the Bakehouse makes opportunities for those of us who cannot be in the studio full time, but still make room for us and give us support and give us resources and allow us to use the space. I often sublet from the other artists whenever there's time in the summers, or we'll take advantage of the space in the summertime. And so this space, I have the privilege of being in here for June and July, and I was here since the start of June.
You also teach.
Yeah. And so it's teaching full time is demanding. It's demanding, it's time consuming, it's beautiful work, but it also means that you need the flexibility, and the Bakehouse allows that. They really welcome that kind of flexibility, but they also encourage a real seriousness, a real dedication to one's craft, to one's practice. They facilitate that kind of dedication. There's a community of tenacity, of courage, of conviction, and it's really powerful to be around so many thoughtful, caring, dedicated, focused artists. And to have the infrastructure and support to lift us all up.
Now, you're holding Embodied.
Oh,
yes. Okay, can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're a dancer.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So Embodied was my solo exhibition at the Museum of Contemporary Art in North Miami. And I loved this show so much. It was so special to work on with Adize Wilford, Kimari Jackson, and the whole team at MOCA. And so it was almost like this kind of mini retrospective where we looked at works starting from 2015 until now. And it really explored the arc of my evolution as a dancer who was using visual arts to make sense of things that I was navigating in my physical experience of the world. And dancers, we are hyper sensitive and hyper aware of what's happening in our own bodies, especially with injuries and with illnesses and things like that. And then gradually, as I became a caregiver to my dad in the last months and years of his life, I started to understand kind of how my body was changing relative to his, but then also trying to understand how our bodies were being interpreted by medical technology and trying to make sense of where we fit in that conversation between machine and body and the self and medical institutions.
How was that being a caregiver? How did it influence your perspective on the body's resilience?
I am very fortunate because it was me, my mom, and my brother together taking care of my dad. It was very time intensive, palliative care. It was round the clock. And I think that we saw how resilient each of us could be as a community, as a team, as a family. I think we understood that the body's resilience is one that is amplified when others are together. I think interdependence amplifies the body's individual resilience. But I also think that I think that it's hard to say. I think we become really resilient in times of extreme demand, but then also illness is complicated and it requires psychological endurance, emotional endurance, all of these different things. I think what I learned from being a caregiver is that we think of physical and emotional and psychological and intellectual as being separate, and they are all one. And the survival of the body and the healing of the body requires the healing of everything altogether.
And no one gives you a playbook.
No one gives you a playbook.
I kept saying with my own mom, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But you're doing it.
Yeah,
but you don't know how.
No. And it's amazing because it's like I don't have the book with me, but the series that was created from this this entire set of experiences, the Manipura series, the Manipura body of works. Is it in here? I don't think so. But that entire body of work was rooted in a book that I put together with different contributions from people in my friends and family who had also experienced being caregivers or who had received care. And nobody gets any kind of real guidance on how to do this. And caregivers make up a really large part of the medical establishment, right? Non-professional caregivers, people just taking care of their loved ones. We are actually an integral part of the healthcare system in the US, where some surgeries won't even be permitted unless you have a full-time caregiver as a part of your support system. So it's really fascinating, and it's so crazy, and it's so hard.
How do you incorporate narrative medicine into your art?
So narrative medicine is a system. It's like a theory and a praxis that was developed by Dr. Rita Sharon of Columbia University, and her entire approach is using narrative theory from English literature and applying it to medical practice, where it's not just about bedside manner. The entire thinking is that the doctor's role is to interpret the different narratives, the narrative offered by medical imaging, the narrative offered by nurses, the narrative offered by the patient themselves, and trying to weave together the story of what's happening in the patient's body. And so it's also trying to take the context, because sometimes the training of a doctor is to see and to localize and to identify in very small scale what's happening to somebody. But for the patient, they see an illness in the context of their entire life. And sometimes they see the illness in the context of generations of experience, where it's okay, this is a hereditary illness. My mother went through this. My grandmother went through this. All of us are going to go through this. My daughter may go through this, right? And so there's this perspective shift that Rita Sharon encourages. And so I think for me, as when I think about narrative medicine, I'm thinking about how we weave together these understandings of story and understandings of perspective, and weaving together different narratives of illness, and what one thing might be diagnosed as is actually lived as, versus how it's interpreted, versus how the machine understands this thing. I've been looking a lot at ultrasound images of the heart.
Yes, I saw this series.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is like looking at these images and how they kind of remind me of like images of like different versions of eternity, of outer space, of like moonlit waterscapes. And there's another type of narrative unfolding here too. So I think, yeah, narrative medicine for me is ways of interpreting and ways of understanding the story of what's going on inside of us.
I find your work so intriguing. And I feel like I have so many questions for you, because just in relation to how you incorporate caregiving, it's extremely hard on the body. Most people don't talk about is that many caregivers pass before the person that they're caring for.
The caregiver's burden is so crazy, where there, you develop like sympathetic ailments, you develop like sympathetic like injuries as well, and then like the emotional toll, the stress, the discomfort is shared by the caregiver as much as the care recipient. And it's an extreme form of interdependence. Yeah. And it's like one of the defining experiences that some of us may have in our lifetimes is caring for somebody else. And yeah, it's a very significant shift in our understanding of who we are, and it's a complicated thing.
And this series,
yeah,
you just started working on it?
This is a new series. This is a brand new series. It's been underway for the last year, but the new works on the walls are all kind of an expansion of the study of the heart and ultrasounds of the heart, and hereditary illness, but also hereditary strength, hereditary love, and trying to capture, this essence of like images of eternity, right? Like we understand what's happening inside of our bodies, but there's no real way for us to look inside beyond these imaging techniques.
Right.
And so to look inside our bodies, really, like these are worlds that are happening in complete darkness. These are processes that are happening in complete darkness. And ultrasounds are so stunning to look at, because they are, you see like these dark pools of black and gray encircled by these like halos of white, and everything is touched by this this really strange and ephemeral quality, and it's beautiful. And so I think that if we're looking at images of eternity, I think that's what I've been thinking about now with images of ultrasounds, images of the heart, and trying to look at what's hereditary, what we inherit from our loved ones. In what way am I looking into something larger than myself?
And that one?
And this was an experiment. So these are like kind of tests. This is one where I was replicating an ultrasound exactly, and this one is where I'm playing with graphite paint, like graphite powder, and wetting the powder and experimenting with it and its textures, and just trying to see how voluptuous I could make things and what that would do. So these were all kind of preliminary studies and tests before I started to make the larger works. So these are drawings, and then using graphite powder, and then painting with the powder with water. They're all speculative. I guess I did enough tests and experiments with sketching from a reference that I was able to kind of start building.
Did you have access to actual X-rays?
So with ultrasounds, I've been just using images that I find online and through like different archive websites. I also try to compare what's healthy and what's not, and also like what different types of areas of darkness might indicate, and things like that. They also are based on different body prints that I've made. So I tried to really think about the sternum and the chest. So I will place and like also like the choreography of medical imaging, where like the patient has to move around in order to get certain images. So I wet some graphite powder and painted it onto my sternum, and I went ahead and tried to create the movement that I wanted for the larger ultrasound. And so I actually have that kind of like body print right there, and then the drawing built around it.
So you use your body
I use my body
in many of your works,
in
no?
all of my works.
In all your works.
All my works, you know, as a dancer and as like someone who still maintains like a very embodied practice, I
Yeah.
like to have my physical presence be a part of the work always. Yeah, this one I did over the area of my heart, which is over here in the top left. And so then I pressed into the panel 3 times and then built around that way. And then I was thinking about these as being like little blood vessels. Yeah, and then having the texture of organ tissue, etc. This one here was just graphite powder that was not wet, and it's over on my sternum, and then I pressed it in, and so my sternum is right here, and then I have everything kind of moving and coming around it, right? And so I try to really create a balance between what is like wet graphite powder that's been washed into and painted into the piece, mm-hmm. versus using pencil to get that really nice tight line definition. And so I try to always really pay attention to both and make sure I'm always integrating both into my work successfully. I always like to incorporate annotations and text into my work. I'm so intrigued by medical annotations. I'm intrigued by the history of like scientific draftsmanship. And so like for the longest time before we had images, we relied on drawing to create and to represent what's going on in the body. To this day, like medical illustration is a major field and is a really important way to represent what's taking place, and for people to learn about the body. And so from this earlier series, from the Geology of Longing, Feelings Fossilized series, I 3D modeled these sculptures of like different ghost pains that had emerged in my body, and I used these kind of clever kind of personal annotations to kind of play on the ways we interpret information. So I have kind of this watercolor x-ray. I have these little annotations, like poetic annotations, but also explaining where the injury came from and then what it feels like and why it feels that way.
I love that you included that.
It makes it so real. I think it also just like connects it to a person and a place and a time.
Right. And
I think that's the essence of narrative medicine, is that like
the evidence.
Yeah. It's the evidence. It's also like this belongs to a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to create some more annotations for the new works as well.
You enjoy drawing?
I love drawing.
Great. And how does it factor in terms of your performance work?
Oh my gosh. So performance for me, they complement each other. I think that this is the practice where I can really delve deep into my questions, whereas performance requires that I have to like live and navigate those questions in real time and try to invite the audience to live and navigate those questions with me. And so whether that's endurance performance or like a structured choreographed dance performance, I think that those things start to feed off of each other in a meaningful way. I think that one of my new goals and something that I'm working on now is incorporating my sculpture pieces, my sculpture works into the performances. This is like, I think the kind of technical heart and soul of my practice is like the performance and the sculptures together. Yeah, the sculptures are so important to me.
These are so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, these are all different these are all based on like ghost pains and injuries that came up almost as like sympathetic pains to when I was taking care of my dad. And so each of these has like a reference point that is connected to different moments in like caring for him or even in the grieving process. This one is interesting where this was when my partner, he and I had separated. He and I were together through my dad's illness and through, you know, his passing and all those things. When he and I separated, I had a ruptured ovarian cyst. And so we talked about it, and it was just like a kind of crazy coincidence that this is the thing that would happen.
While you were taking care of your father?
Afterwards, after he had passed away and after my partner and I separated. So it was like there's all these other things happening too, like new pressures, new forms of loss.
How was that for you?
You know, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
It's all part of the journey. I think like it makes sense. I was very fortunate. I think I had a really great community around me, and the people that went through this journey with me were really, really thoughtful and also like really understanding. And I think that there was an acceptance, like, yes, you're going to kind of relive this grief through your body more than once. And I found that also like kind of reassuring, where, yeah, it's, you know, like there's like your body's still catching up. Like your body is still grieving, your body is still remembering. That grief moves at a different timeline.
I heard grief walks with you.
Yes, always, which is true. And I mean, we have to move forward. Like there's so many things that we have to like keep doing and keep thinking about. And I love working with kids. I work with kids, and it's like kids make you laugh so much. They make you so crazy. They make you so mad. But you know, you also like, they also keep you awake and keep you moving and keep you thinking. And so I think that there's like this wonderful push and pull where like the loss and the memory and the love is still a part of you and still walking with you, but it's like supporting you in this new journey too. So yeah, as you're moving and as you're living.
So I've noticed that you have a sketchbook. How does the idea spark for you?
So fortunately for us, we're at the carpet, which is exciting.
You mentioned you have a carpet in all of your spaces.
All my studio spaces, I try to have a carpet, and it's an essential part of it for me. I'm going to take off my shoes.
I need to know why, because I live for special quirks or preferences that artists have in their studio. So yes. I'm just so curious about the carpet aspect.
Oh my God. I think that a big part of it for me is that anything that I come up with in terms of a sculpture or in terms of a drawing, or even deciding how I want to move with my body choreographically, or even part of what I'm trying to create, I need to sketch it out first or feel it out first. And like the meditation, the embodied study is really important. So having a place in which I can relax and experiment and discover on the floor, I think is really integral to that. And it's also a good way to take care of myself in the process. If like medicine and healing is a part of my practice, I think having something that feels safe and supportive, in addition to being productive, is important. Yeah. So carpet always. But yeah, I think it's fun. One of the new things that I'm working on is the series of 9 sculptures that I'm hoping to activate in performance, also about the heart. But I'm creating these different studies of like things that I had seen in the ICU as like part of like almost this like kind of transformation when you see somebody kept alive by machines, like the transformation of a human into a cyborg, and this idea of like cyborg medicine is so confusing. And yeah, there's a real disjointedness between person and body and machine, and so I'm trying to unpack that and untangle that, and challenge that a little bit. And so I'm making like these ceremonial objects to reinterpret medical machinery. Yeah. So we're working on it, but this is for the wrist, and this is for like the central line, like the IV that goes into the hand and the wrist.
Have you thought of studying medicine?
I thought about it. I think when I was younger, maybe I'm too soft.
I can't know.
I know, maybe I'm too soft, but I also think, I've talked about it with my family, and yeah, my mom says, I think this is also just like an equally meaningful way to contribute to the field and like to contribute to medicine and to like have conversations with doctors and to have conversations with people whose loved ones are navigating the medical system or who they themselves are navigating medical treatments. So,
and you're great at explaining, and sometimes it's difficult to know what any of it means.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to just to play another role. So let's see, I have some other drawing. Yay.
I love your book.
Thank you. Like all embroidered. Let's see if I've got more in here. I wonder. Just like different studies, like I think there's this new set of studies that I'm trying to work on where I'm trying to like see if I can visualize what it felt like to watch a medical process. So it's just like trying to visualize the feeling of watching defibrillation, and like I'm trying to, I don't know, there's like this like numb, horrified, but also like this kind of something coming up your spine, or maybe it's like in your jaw, like trying to just like capture sensations and trying to visualize and just see. Let's see, I wonder, what do I get? Oh, here we go. And some more. This like idea of aqueous landscapes, and then kind of initial drawings and studies of the heart, and then trying to expand and unpack that a little bit. And trying to experiment again.
It's so detailed.
Thinking, planning, figuring things out. Let's see what I have. Some of these are diaries, so I'm trying to figure it out.
So you aim to reimagine sites of care, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's an important idea, where the story, the book, the art book, Manipura, of Flowers and Bones, the introductory essay, which I had written, one of the first sentences says, like, what is healthcare? What does it mean to care for the health of someone else? And so I think this idea of care really kind of focuses on the notion of healthcare, of like what it means to care for someone in a time of illness, right? But also like a lot of that labor is going to happen at home before it ever reaches a doctor's office. And so it's really interesting to think about how like cooking and caregiving and affection and even just like thoughtfulness and understanding are also kind of those things that are difficult to quantify, but are also an essential part of someone's survival. Like a patient's ability to survive transplant, for example, transplant surgery, which has like, you never know how it's going to go, if the body is going to accept or reject the new organ. And for certain organs, it becomes like very high risk. The type of care that they receive from caregivers and from their loved ones in the aftermath is pretty essential to how their body is going to react. And so it's just interesting to think about. And so for me, like reimagining sites of care is just a meditation on what we already have that's been successful and that's been working and that supports and nourishes, and then what maybe sometimes does the opposite. And so it's a study of those types of things.
And your background in dance.
Background in dance. A mover. Always coming from movement. I think it's like I come from movement and I always bring it back to movement. Martha Graham has this wonderful idea that the first movement and the last movement we will ever do is breathe.
Is breathe.
Is breathe. Yes. And that's an essential part of this idea, where like movement is the study of the body. It's the study of how the body evolves. It's the study of how we retain information in our joints and in our organs and our muscles and our blood. And so all of this is like as essential to choreography of living as it is to anything else. So I think like background in dance, but it's like dance is living. and so I think it's like the virtuosity is not as important to me as much as the living itself.
How do you handle the toll that it takes?
Oh my goodness.
On your body.
Oh my gosh. I laugh a lot. I work with kids. It is great. It humbles you every day. Nobody keeps you in check like a 14-year-old.
Well, what do you teach?
I teach emerging media. I teach digital art and emerging media to young people. I work with I've historically mostly worked with high school and undergrad, but this year I started working with middle school, and then last year I designed a program for an elementary school, and it was really fun. So I've had a fun time.
Like, well, that's right, because graphic is pivotal.
Yeah.
Right, to you, because you have a background in graphic as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I think like I started out, I've just like, thinking that my practices would be separate, where I'd work in like digital media and design technology, which I love working with 3D modeling and 3D printing and graphic design. I love those things, and user experience, and just like seeing how we interact with different surfaces and all of those different, ways of thinking and working that kind of work with this like human computer interaction. I found it so fascinating and I loved working with it. And then my art practice was this embodied experimental performance movement practice. And then when I was finally able to bring those things together, I think things started to make a lot more sense to me. But yeah, I find that when I started getting really injured or I couldn't do too much with my embodied performance practice, modeling 3D sculptures on my, like in software and on my computer, gave me this freedom that I didn't think would be possible. And so it was wonderful to have that balance. I think computers and digital art to this day really create room for artists navigating temporary or permanent disabilities.
Right.
And so I think that it's a really powerful medium for the sick and disabled community.
So it's something I think that more and more people should explore. I think they're intimidated by it.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Fair. I think that's fair. Yeah.
But it can open whole new doors.
All new doors. And computers are, the computers are quirky. They're figuring things out too. Like, you can talk to your computer a little bit. You can be like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? And so I think that if you give yourself some room to learn something new and to trust that, that, human beings were wired for learning. We're very good at it. So I think that if you can trust that that is what you are built for, then you will kind of lose some of the fear and lose some of the anxiety. Because, you can do it. Anyone can do it.
Is there something new that you want to explore? Some kind of medium that you have on your mind?
I am, I feel like this body of work right now on the heart is like taking up so much of my like headspace right now, because I have the drawings, I have the sculptures, I have an evening length performance that I'm working on. So I think
tell me more about that.
Oh my gosh, it's exciting. So it's like all coming together. So I think that right now my focus is on just like creating works that are powerful within those structures. Eventually I'd love to create something where I'm experimenting a little bit with like algorithmic like 3D model generation. Not AI, right? I think that first I want to just experiment with like setting parameters for a model to be generated based on text, right? Like, so if I use a certain type of word to describe a type of pain or experience, what is that going to visualize, right? So I think that it's like ways of visualizing the patient experience with 3D modeling. And so that's something that I'm curious about. If I ever wanted to integrate natural language processing, which is a type of AI, if I wanted to integrate that into my work at all, I think that could be interesting, but I'm not there yet.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
Oh my gosh, Maya Deren, Martha Graham. If we're talking about like dance,
she's one of my favorites.
I love Martha Graham.
I have her books.
Oh my gosh,
she's
so
just
amazing.
incredible.
She's amazing. And then I'd say when it comes to like anything that's based in sculpture or in performance and drawing, I think that, you know, a lot of people don't know Yayoi Kusama is disabled, and so like that was a lot of her like spotted kind of like imagery was like based on some of her experiences. And so there was I think that her way of working with like embodied practice, with the plushies, with all these like big things that she would make, I think is really fascinating. I am really inspired by what is her name? She did Loving Care, where she dipped her hair in dye and like you know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh,
I know her name, Janine Antony.
Yes,
I love Janine Antony. I'm a big Janine Antony fan. I think she's brilliant. I think she's wonderful. From the sculpture side, I love Simone Lee. Simone Leigh. But and then Simone Leigh or Simone Lee? Lee? Okay.
Yeah.
From the sculpture side, I love Simone Lee. I love Parthi Kher from India. I love the kind of like traditional practice, anything textile oriented from South Asia. From the performance side, there's a famous Manipuri director, Ratan Thiam, who's a genius. The man is just like brilliant, and like his plays are so stunning. Yeah, and maybe Stan Brakhage. I like the artists who go in. Stan Brakhage also had cancer and made a piece about like his experiences of like looking at light, and he made a beautiful piece of just like looking and staring and experiencing the textures of light and of living. So I think that there's something to be said about, you know, contemplations on eternity, contemplations on the body, and contemplations of like where we sit in the midst of it all. So
how do you balance?
I don't know.
Between being an educator and then a studio practice, it's really tough.
You have to be incredibly disciplined about making the time. Incredibly disciplined. And you have to really like fight for that time. It is very difficult. And I think that the more you advocate for yourself and for your time, the easier it gets. Especially for those of us who have responsibilities with our families and with our loved ones. You know, if you're a mom, it's very hard. But I think that the more you make it a priority, the more doors start opening for you. So I think that that's really the key. And then if you're a teacher and you get a summer break, like make as much as you can. That is essential. Yeah.
What's next?
I think for me, I just want to make this current body of work come alive in a way that feels really resonant and really real to everyone who experiences it. I'm going to be creating, this is just like the beginning. I'm hoping to create a lot of drawings in this vein of creating these ultrasound works. I'm hoping to finalize the 9 sculptures, and I'll show you a photograph of one of them.
I want to see.
And then I'm also working on the evening length performance. We've premiered the first 3 movements, and then we have the second 3 remaining, or like the second half remaining. And yeah, and I think that, you know, when you make work, it's not just about like the production, it's also does it land? Does it do what you want it to do? Does it have real meaning and impact on the people around you? And so I think even when we premiere the full evening length work, which I think is going to be the toughest one, because getting anyone to enjoy anything for 60 minutes is really hard. And so, yeah, I think even when we premiere it the first time, we might rework it thereafter just to make sure it's a really solid and rich performance, rich experience, enriching, heartfelt transmission of ideas and studies. Yeah, and so I think that if this body of work is launched in a way that's meaningful, I think I will feel satisfied. So this is the sculpture that's been completed, the first of 9. And so this will be the centerpiece in the evening length performance that's coming up. And so there will be these oxygen tubes. I'm hoping that they'll be around 20 feet long. They're the kinds that we used for my dad when he needed to move around the house, and they're also similar to the ones that I used and my brother used when we were like getting asthma treatment. And so it's just kind of an interesting connection, and just having that integrated with the 3D printed structure. The sculpture itself, one of the new things I've been introducing is this kind of sculpting and texturing the ornamentation to be similar to traditional South Asian jewelry, and just really experimenting with ornamentation that integrates both like traditional symbolism and traditional patterns, like the leaf, as which is often thought of as like paisley in the West, and then having it integrated with veins and other kind of um, more literal images too.
Do you keep the venue in mind?
You know, I'm not sure yet. I think that for the venue itself, um, I don't know yet. I think I try to let the work be open to a variety of different kinds of venues, and then, but I do think that it will require a bit more of like a traditional theatrical infrastructure.
Yes.
So I think that'll be important. But yeah, the team is me and Trina Basu. Trina Basu is a composer. And then some of the dancers that I work with, Sam Martis and then Nicole Pedraza. But yeah.
How is it collaborating?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I think that as an artist, it's easy to get in your own head quite a bit. And I like working with others, and I like expanding ideas together. I think that if your idea communicates well to collaborators, then it'll communicate well to an audience too. I think as a dancer and as someone who, so who is a musician, as somebody who is a musician, I do think that it's really like, I think we learned collaboration from the start, and so I feel like it makes sense to my practice. I will say I'd have a harder time collaborating on a drawing with someone, but I think that for performance, it is the heart and soul of the process.
And the community here?
Great. So supportive. I think that Miami is a small community, and as a result, everybody wants to support each other. I think that's a gift. I will say in New York, because it's a small community, everyone wants to support each other there also. It's just about a matter of finding the pocket of support that really speaks to your creative vision. So I think that that's really essential. I love having a foot in both communities where I feel like I can get a lot of meaningful dialogue from both. Yeah, because Trina is based in New York right now, and that's very helpful.
If you were to give advice to, let's say, a young dancer or an emerging performance artist, or in general, what would be your top advice?
2 things. The first would be to understand what your core values are as a human being, and as an artist.
See, now I love hearing things I haven't heard before. Why?
Because this world will ask you to make a lot of choices as a person and as an artist. And it'll also ask you to make compromises. You need to know what you will not compromise on. And you need to also know what values will be front and center in your work, no matter what you do. And so that'll help you attract the right kinds of collectors. That'll help you attract the right kinds of supporters. It'll help you attract the right kinds of collaborators, people who share your core values, and will also support you in the types of things that you want to work on, right? If service is important to you, right, you'll be connected to other leaders in the arts who care about service. if supporting your family is important to you, right? The people in your life and in your community, in your professional community, will make sure that opportunities and doors open for you that allow you to take care of your family and support your practice at the same time. So you have to really know who you are as an artist and know what will be front and center in your work, what will be front and center in your life, and being able to like let those things guide you. I think especially for a young person, it's hard to know exactly what those are. You can also are just like, you want the validation so fast. Like sometimes the hunger, the competition, the desire to be the best can sometimes make people lose their focus. Sometimes as a result, the work suffers. Sometimes it makes you compromise your values in a way that will surprise you, right? And it's you have to know what they are.
What's something that you won't compromise?
For me,
Yeah.
I will never compromise. My work is often about people who've lived through certain things. I won't ever let those people feel exploited or taken advantage of by the work. And I never want to make anyone feel as though, I'm exposing them in a way that they do not want to be exposed. And so there are a lot of checkpoints for me with the Manipura of Flowers and Bones sculpture series and book. I had a lot of checkpoints with everybody involved, right? They shared their stories. I showed them the work. I asked them for feedback. Well, the moment that I got any kind of funding for the project, I gave them funding. I gave them funds from whatever I earned, right? I made sure that they all got a piece of the pie. I made sure the books went out to them. I also asked them if they ever wanted their story pulled from the work in any way. They could have it pulled from the work. That was fine with me, right? You have to make sure that your work honors the people first, right? And you have to make sure the work has meaning first, right? If you think you're making a work about caregiving, but it's just a work about showmanship, then it's not a work about caregiving. And so, like, you can't compromise the integrity of the subject matter either. And so I think that that's something that's really important to me, right? I often tell my students, I will make art as long as I have something meaningful to say. And if I don't have something meaningful to say anymore, I will stop making art. And that is like an important thing to know about yourself, right? Where this is almost like an existential practice, being an artist. And so you have to know why you're doing something. Sometimes we do things for the money, and you know what? Like, I understand. People need to eat, right? Like, it is hard. It is not an easy profession. And I understand that. But know where your lines are, right? Know what it is you're willing to compromise on, right? If it's like the way the colors appear on the screen, fine, right? If it's something larger than that, then ask yourself if it's worth it.
I've learned so much. This is so insightful. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Oh, I had a second one, but my second one was just like, make sure you have mentors. Make sure you have mentors.
Mentors are always important.
Yeah, they also help you figure out what your values are, because sometimes you don't know what right away.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
No worries.
All right, I'm going to leave Smita's details below.
Yay.
All her contact information, future projects, what she's working on, and make sure you follow her.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.